Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I'm here with Jon Barbera, and we're going to be talking about how to build a more profitable business. More deals does not necessarily equal more profit. It might always mean more headaches, but we'll talk about that a little bit today. So, hey Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk about this today. So I know you're doing some unique, you find some deals that you're going after, hitting home runs and not necessarily just trying to do volume. And excited to talk about that a little bit today because it is easy to get caught up in the hamster wheel of volume and units and things like that. And we'll talk about that a bit. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in that. But before we jump in, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Sure. I was born in Argentina. At 7 years old, we came to the U.S. I grew up in New York. I went to school in New York, dropped out of high school in New York. I did construction there. Then in 2013, went down to Texas because I was trying to start my real estate business. New York wasn't business friendly. So I did some research, found Texas.
Still isn't.
Yeah, still isn't. It keeps getting worse. So my research in 2012 was like, what state was affected the least during the financial crisis? And I saw Texas was like still doing great. So we just packed up everything, drove down to San Antonio because it was between San Antonio and Houston, and I wasn't going to live near the ocean. It was way too humid. And I just decided to go to San Antonio. And in there, I built my whole business, started wholesaling, went into fix and flips, renovated over 100 houses, acquired rental portfolio. I built houses. We built about 5 new builds. Hated that space real quick and got back to single family and just doing what I did. And then about a year ago, my business is at a point where I can kind of run it from everywhere. So I decided I felt like I overcorrected going from New York to Texas. It's way too hot in Texas, as you know. And, I went up halfway. So I came to Tennessee, which is where I'm at now in Chattanooga. And I've been here for a year. I love the business. I love the city. I love the nature, everything that's available here. And that's why I try to tell people when they try to guess where my accent is from, I'm like, good luck. I've been all over the place. I don't know. I don't even know where it's from. So
that it's not Tennessee.
No.
Yep. Cool. So just talk about maybe some of your major learnings, because I know, it's easy when you first get started, like you just want to do deals, right? And you do honestly think that like you can solve anything with volume. Like I need more deals. And sometimes people start to make bad decisions. Like, you overlook the level of a rehab maybe, and you get stuck with it. You can't wholesale it, and you get stuck with it or whatever. There's a lot of things that could happen, but people are falling in love with volume typically. Or they think they're going to make up, more profit with volume or things like that. Just when did you have an epiphany that there is a different way, I guess?
So I've been at this for 13 years now, but I wasn't good at it for 13 years, right? So I spent more time doing this wrong than doing this right. I would say the last 4 years is where I've really been nailing it. And up until that point, the issue was that in order to do more volume, you need more people, you need more lists, you need more services, you need more marketing. It's always more money, right? It's always more time. I found myself at a point that I was working about 14, 16 hours a day just to keep my team busy, because they weren't very productive. Like we were not moving the needle. We had probably about 12 people on my team at one point, and this is including VAs and everything. And we were barely some months crossing over 40 grand. And it was stressful to run a business like that. Most months we were negative. Some months we would come up ahead, but we were just making up for the negative months. So it was just, we were doing up to 9 renovations at the same time. We were like chickens with our head cut off, right? And the only answer I kept getting was just spend more. Just spend more. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know how much more to spend. Like, it just got to a point where I couldn't see a clear path to profitability, and not even profitability. I'll be honest. Like, I didn't see a clear path to a business I wanted to operate. It was getting to, for myself, I spent way too many years at high stress that I actually started developing a lot of health issues, panic attacks. Like, I would be driving on the highway. I would either pick the fast lane or the slow lane because I felt like if I would pass out, I can maybe throw the car into the median.
Holy cow.
And not harm somebody. Yeah, I got really, really sick. And it was because of the same stress of the business. It was just like years and years. And every year we would start the year like, well, hopefully we're still in business by next year, right? And that level of stress, even though people are like, oh, yeah, that's the grind, it catches up to you after years of operating that way.
Yeah.
And the epiphany, I guess, came for me when 2021, 2020 changed our whole business. We had to get back into marketing. Up until then, we were buying from wholesalers, our network, all that stuff. I went to a lot of networking events, and we had to get back into marketing after 2020 because people were outbidding us on every deal, from every wholesaler. We were losing out on everything. So we went straight to the source, and it got back into that business that I hated, which was wholesaling and generating leads and everything. And I was about to quit. I got to a point where I sat down, spoke to my business partner, and I was like, I'm done. I'm so done with this. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy a few houses a year, renovate them myself. I grew up in construction. I can make, I don't know, 150, 200 grand maybe a year, and by myself, I'll be fine. I'll just get by. And I saw his eyes get red because I was the one kind of driving the business, and he found himself like, what am I going to do? Wow. And it broke my heart. I'll be honest, because he was the only one that stood by me since the beginning. So I was like, all right, let me figure this out again. And that's when we started realizing, if you can't make money with, let's say, $500, you're not going to do it 5,000 or 10,000. More money, if you don't know how to make money, more money isn't going to just magically help you. A lot of people always say money makes money, but not if you don't spend it correctly, not if you don't know how to deploy it. You and I were talking before the show about an event I went to, that there's people bragging about 50, 60, 70 doors they own, yet they're negative every single month. And I'm like, that's not the point of real estate in my perspective. You should be making money, not having so many doors and losing money. So it was just more of, how can we actually make money with less? So at that point, we just kind of fired everybody. And we went right back to my partner and I, and we rebuilt from there. And we were like, just pick one list, one focus, and we'll become better than everybody else in the market on that. So for us at the time, it was pre-foreclosures in Texas, in San Antonio. And we started focusing on the really messy ones, understanding, partial interest purchases, understanding how to get rid of judgments, how to close outside of title, the really messy stuff, the really, funky deals that other people can't close. And we started making a lot more money per deal. So now we went from needing 30, 60 deals a year to now, with 18 that we did last year, we did a little north of 2 million, and it's now it's not about volume, it's quality. So,
right. How do you differentiate when you're looking at pre-foreclosure? So historically, I would say there's a lot of there's a lot of foreclosure activity. This is a different market now because people just have more equity because of all the appreciation over the last few years. But if you go back, even 5 years ago, a lot of the foreclosure activity was from people that didn't have a lot of equity necessarily. So how do you differentiate? Because I know you're going after messy titles and stuff that people just can't sell, or they're just maybe inherited it, or they don't even know what they have or whatever. How do you decipher the deep deals versus those that are in foreclosure, are close, and don't have a lot of equity?
So that's a great question, because a lot of people, they think I'm just going to pull the foreclosure list and market to it. And I'm like,
right.
90% of that is just trash. Like it's
Right.
not worth going after.
Right.
So our criteria is minimum of a deed of trust date of 10 years or more.
Okay.
Right. So if they bought the house at least 10 years ago or more, then there's a really good chance they're going to have a decent amount of equity in the property.
Yeah.
Right. Unless they did some crazy stuff in between there. But my experience has shown that very few have done crazy stuff in the middle. So 10 years or more, we look for institutional lenders. So what we won't chase is anybody that has a lender that's like an LLC, that potentially they did like an owner finance or something of the sort.
Okay.
So we'll look for institutional lenders. And then how to get the really messy ones, what we look for is the owner to be deceased.
Okay.
So now the house is in foreclosure and the person that's getting foreclosed on is dead.
How do you know the owner is deceased? Like, how do you find that information?
There are two services.
Tell me all your
use.
trade secrets. Tell me all your trade secrets.
Yeah, I got you. So there are two services we use. One is TLO. The other one is Skip Genie. They're both the same. I would say TLO stands much higher. It's just not everybody can get access to TLO, so we recommend Skip Genie as well.
Yeah.
But when you skip trace an owner, it'll tell you if they're deceased.
I see.
Right. So let's say, for example, on Thursdays in San Antonio, a big list is released every Thursday of properties are being posted to foreclosure. Out of 60 properties, for us, maybe 3 qualify. So we'll bring him at a 60, we'll bring it down to about 18 with the parameters I told you. Out of those 18, we'll search each one to find just the deceased one. Now, the deceased one, where what we do is we go and we skip trace the relatives. Right. And we tell them pretty much like, hey, listen, this person's property, it's getting foreclosed on, and you guys have an equitable interest in the property. Are you guys interested in that money, or do you want the bank to just take it?
Yeah.
Like, no, I would love that money. Great. Let's talk.
What is it pretty common that they don't even know what's going on?
Sometimes, yeah. Right now we're actually working with a lady that she didn't know she had even a sister that's the other person that has the claim to the house. And she didn't even know her mom ever owned a house. So, I mean, like, it's just completely, disassociated from the whole family.
Yeah.
But she owns 50%. So, we let her know and everything. And why we like doing this is these people, they don't even know that this money belongs to them or it's coming to them at all. So, like, to them, it's just extra money.
Yeah.
It's just cherry on the cake, right? So it's one of those things that you don't have to go and do market research or anything on the property. It's pretty much like, look, if I give you $5,000 for your interest on this property, is that, I would love to get $5,000 if I don't have to do anything. Yeah. They sign over their interest. We take it from there and we start cleaning up whatever the title issues are.
I have so much experience with the alternative to that, which is the house is not worth much. There's not a lot of equity in it, but there's like 10 descendants that all think they have a pot of gold and none of them agree with each other,
Yeah. And that happens too. That's why, like, a lot of the stuff that I spend the time on is the sales, right? So it's not where I think a lot of people mess up on sales is they try to tack it from a logical perspective of, well, you're going to lose it and none of you are going to get anything. You don't get very far with that, right? Instead, we want to start painting a scenario of like, what would it look like if you were to put $2,000 in your pocket right now, $3,000 right now? You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, but the house is potentially worth this. It could be. How are you going to get that equity out?
Right.
Are you going to take care of the mortgage? Are you going to take care of the liens? Are you going to post it? Are you going to delay the foreclosure? How are you going to get that? Because at this point, that doesn't look like it's feasible.
Yeah, because these are often things. Are you doing tax sales too, or is it just foreclosure? A lot of these things have a lot of back taxes, a lot of deferred payments, like stuff like that you have to catch up, right?
Right. So we'll do the back taxes as well, especially when they've been filed the suit on the property because the county's getting ready to come in and actually take the property back. So we'll approach those. A lot of those, from my experience, is like if they're behind that much in taxes, typically they don't have a mortgage because usually the mortgage company will take care of the taxes in some cases.
Sure.
So, when we find those properties, usually like another one we're dealing with right now, they owe about $27,000 in taxes, and that's all they owe. And the house, as it sits, is worth around like $180,000. So, the lady, again, she's like, I don't care. For all I care, the house can burn down. It doesn't affect me at all. It's like, cool. Well, here's a couple grand, and you don't
Right.
have to care anymore. Nobody ever has to call you again. So they like those, they like that side of it, right? Like just being completely done and getting some money.
Yeah. And so this is how you're doing more profitable deals. It's not necessarily you moved up to $1 million plus houses or commercial properties or anything. You're just finding the stuff that's really distressed. Is truthfully, you know what you're doing, but for the average investor, more risky if they don't know what they're doing. And you're just, you're just looking for home runs, right?
Well, yeah, and this is why I tell people to focus, because the reason why somebody new can't do this is because they're spread way too thin. They're trying to do so much. And a lot of people have the misconception that the only way to make real money in this business is to flip houses. And I can make more money wholesaling a house than most people can flipping. Now, I will make more flipping because the margins are there, but the point is, like, I speak to people all the time that their average profit is 30, 40 grand on a flip. I'm like, I wouldn't touch it for that much money. Like, to me, my average wholesale is 65 grand and my average flip is 6 figures. And this is in San Antonio, right? Where most of the deals we're doing are ARV of 300, 350 or less. Yeah. So, it's not like people always assume that it has to be a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 home. And I'm like, no, when you buy it right, the margins are there.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you kind of use this phrase when we started, production over performance. And a lot of people get hung up on volume. But at the end of the day, there's no badge of honor in like having a low profit business, just and doing a lot of volume. That might look good on social media for a little while, but we all know people that looked good on social media for a little while and you don't even know where they are today, right? So that's not the goal. So let's talk about just that thought of high profit. Who cares about volume? Because I don't think that's not normal, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, you run a massive mastermind, right? I'm sure you've heard of people coming in and saying, out of every 10 contracts, we close 5 or we close 6. And I'm like, for me, I don't see how that's acceptable, right? So the other 50, 40%, good luck, what? Like, what happens with that? And it's because they're just playing this game. They're not actually trying to understand what the heck is going on.
All right.
And to me, that's not right for the seller, because they're putting their trust in you. You're saying you're going to help them. They're saying you're going to deliver on this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, sorry, couldn't make my money. So, good luck. Our close rate is 100%, right? Because we don't contract things we can't close. So what we focus on is actually moving the needle rather than just being busy. Uh-huh. And I see this a lot with people. It's like, yeah, I was thinking of adding a new list. To me, if any single list should be able to make you, at least by yourself or maybe with a VA, at least $1 million a year. Hmm. If you can't make that with a list, you don't know the list well enough. Because when you understand a list thoroughly, the profits are there. You understand? Now, if you're in the market, of course, of like, 80,000 people, 50,000 people, then it's going to be harder to get to those numbers, right? But you can at least do $500,000 a year. So when you're adding another list, my first question is like, how much do you make on the first list you're doing? And usually the answer is like barely $100,000. I'm like, so you don't even fully understand this one, yet you're moving on to the next one. Hmm. So what's going to happen is you're going a mile wide and an inch deep. Yeah. And what happens with that is you're always going to compete with literally everybody else in the market. But when you go a mile deep, we're at a point in our market, we don't have competition. We're in St. Louis, we don't have competition. And we're about to branch off now into Nashville, and we don't have competition because people don't go as deep as we go. They don't even, once they see the judgments, once they see the owners, the C's, the airship issues, they're like, just move on. So while everybody's competing to make 5, 10 grand, 15 grand, which blows my mind that it's still acceptable on a deal, go chase those. I'm going after this one that nobody else is going after, and I'm making 90, 120, 130. You understand? So It's more about how much more expertise can I get in this one list. And every list, I have, people that are doing absentees, just absentees, but they narrowed that list down. Probates, just narrow that list down. I don't care what the list is. Just dominate the list. And then we pick
what's
one
the key
source.
to like a more profitable? I mean, some of it is like difficulty in finding the decision maker, right? Because otherwise, I mean, everybody's working probates, everybody's working a lot of these lists that you talk about, but it's not just the list. It's like probably people can't find the ultimate decision maker ultimately, right? Or they're not willing to do the research. Is that mainly what it is?
That's what it is. That's what it is. And it's funny because like I have a few students myself, and like I had a conversation with one of them yesterday. He's telling me about a lead, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm just moving on this." I was like, "I'm sorry. This is when it just starts to get exciting for me. Like now we got to actually map out the family tree. Who's next in line? Do they have any kids? Do they have any siblings? Like all of these things. Let's start mapping out the family tree and see who's up next, because everybody stops at the first name. If the first name didn't produce any phone numbers or they didn't connect with anybody, they're like, oh, I guess that's it. Maybe send them a postcard. And to me, I'm like, no, this is when we put everything down and we go heavy. Now we go to Ancestry.com. We're mapping out the family tree. We're finding who's the next possible relative in line. Start calling those people. Start digging through information. Maybe we start buying some partial interest of them. And we start just digging through the whole mess of those deals.
Yeah, there's a good friend of mine, actually one of my business partners, that has kind of, he didn't coin this term, but he's kind of said this phrase, like basically do hard things, because most real estate investors, most entrepreneurs, most humans aren't willing to do hard things. Like they stop as soon as stuff gets a little bit tough and they just move on to the next thing. Very few of our competitors are willing to do hard things. They just move on to the next easy thing, right? And so talk a little bit about the mindset for that, because I think that there's some people like that just move on because, I mean, they could be, honestly, let's be honest, they're a little lazy. But two is they don't really understand that the opportunity exists there to continue to focus on this thing and go deeper. Like they're not willing to go as deep as what it takes. And so I guess, it took some trial and error, I assume, but how did you learn that was possible, and how do others, what can they apply to themselves to realize that they don't have to go wider, they need to go deeper?
Well, I have a desire to be better, right? So I'm very competitive. I used to play sports my whole life. I like to win. And my way of looking at it is a lot of people get into real estate to chase the money. Because it's going to be supposedly profitable if they just do this or this. And oh man, if I could just make 10 grand a month, that would be tremendous. Thinking that when your phone rings, you're going to be able to see the caller ID and it says, hey, this is a $10,000 deal right here, right? It's like, no, you don't understand how much work, how many no's, how much research, how many bad negotiations you're going to have to go through in order to get to that position. Right. And they're not willing to learn that trade. They're not willing to learn those skills. So what happens is like, I'm sure you've been hearing this too, is like everybody now is trying to go to AI everything. AI callers, AI analyzers, they like, automate the whole business. I'm like, I'm sorry. Does your business make money? No. What are you automating? How not to make more money? Like, I don't understand. Like, to me, when you throw fuel on the fire, you got to have a fire. Right? These people do not even have a fire and they're just throwing more fuel, right? And they spend thousands of dollars on these AI companies, on all these services and all these things. And I'm like, you don't even know why it doesn't work though. You understand? You call the foreclosure list, and like for me, like we work on our scripts a lot. Why? Because I'm calling them. So when I realize I'm getting hung up on in the first 60 seconds, I know my intro's not working. I got to change that up. Because even if they're not interested, I could still get through 5 minutes of a conversation with somebody, right? So I start gauging every metric on our calls. How long are they lasting? How are they converting? How many owners are we speaking to? But if you automate or outsource or try to skip over as many of these things as possible, you're never going to know anything, And I know people that have been at this for, the other day I met a guy that he's a 5-year vet in real estate. I was like, you could call yourself a vet after 5 years? I was like, I must be ancient then. I mean, Mike, you must be like an elder at this point, right? Like a 5-year vet? Are you kidding me? I'm like, you're just getting started.
Yeah.
Like you haven't even been through market cycles to even understand what the hell the market has, right? And you hear him talk and it's like surface level stuff. It's all surface level, you know? And I'm like, yeah, as soon as the market shifts, you're out of business. You have no idea how to adapt to a market that shifted because you're so surface level. So my thing is like, if you can't develop the desire to be the best in this business, you know, as best as you can be in this business, then I don't know what the point is of getting into it, because being mediocre is going to get you those types of results.
Yep. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. One thing I want to talk about too is kind of partnering for success. So I used to do everything myself, and now I don't really get into anything new unless I can find somebody to run it, or a partnership or JV of some sort, of collaborations. And I think you've had, you know, some tendencies to kind of go that direction too, of like, how can I do what I'm good at and partner with others that can, you know, I can teach, or they're just good at those things. So talk about, I guess, the evolution of you and your business, of realizing that I'm not going to get good at everything. I'm going to get good at a few things, and I'm going to partner with people that can do the other parts of that. Talk about that a bit.
So the partners I have right now have all gone through essentially my coaching program, just because I partner with people beforehand and I got to coach them anyway. But what I've realized is I can't gauge their desire until it's too late. And then I'm like, man, you're just not willing to do the work, you know? And when I can see you through my coaching program that you're showing up, you're doing the work, you're getting some success, now I see your level of dedication. Right. And when I see that you're showing up and you're always asking questions and you're always sharing your wins or your feedbacks or your problems, and you're always trying to work through things and you're being creative, I get excited. Right. And then I look at somebody like that, like we're doing this with one of my students in Nashville. And so far this year, he's already made a little over $500,000 just wholesaling in Nashville. Right. So he's pretty successful on his own, but I can throw fuel on his fire. Right. So I approached him. I'm like, hey, here's what we're looking to do in Nashville. Is this something you're interested in? Because I know his character. I know his work ethic. I know that he understands how to manage his money. You know, he knows how to save his money. So he's not going to get into money crunches that's going to affect the business. So there's a lot on the person that I look at, you know, because with desire and focus, I can train the rest. Right. I can teach you how to close. I can teach you how to market. I have my back end systems. I can take you all the way. But if you don't have that desire, if you have a lot of limiting beliefs or a lot of things that you're just not willing to work through, you're not willing to face, then it's a big red flag. Right. And every partner that I have, we're very transparent with. They're very transparent with us. We know their families. It gets very involved, because to me, when my first business partner, John, we've been partners now for over 10 years. I told him, to me, partnership is like a marriage, and I don't believe in divorce. Like, if we got an issue, we'll hash this shit out. You know, you and me, we're going to sit down. Let's figure it out. And because of that transparency, we're great partners, you know, and that's the same premise I have with everybody else. So I look for that. Essentially that, like, can I throw fuel on their fire and make it that much bigger? Yeah. But if I see that I can't bring any value to them, or vice versa for you, right? If you're looking for somebody to partner that you can throw fuel on, if you see that it's like, man, this guy's going to be more of a headache than anything else, like, it's not worth it for you. Like, you know, you're not going to get excited to even talk to the person. Yeah. So those are the things that I kind of look at. And that's why the requirement now has been, if you want to partner with me, you got to go through my coaching, right? Because not because of my coaching, but like because I need to see. It's like an apprenticeship, right? You can't move to be a journeyman unless you've been an apprentice. yeah. If I see your because everybody, and I'm sure you've had it, like, I get people who reach out to me all the time for free coaching, and they're like, "You don't understand, John. I'm gonna grind and I'm gonna work and I'm gonna blah da. I'm like, all right, do this, and call me back. Never hear back from them.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that happens so many times. And I do give them a difficult challenge, right? Because I want to see, like, I want you to even call me back, or like, hey, man, I've been trying. I don't know how you get past this piece, or like, show me that you're trying. And I would even coach you. I've coached people for free all the time. I don't mind doing that when I see that there's hunger. The thing is, like, there isn't hunger. There's that appeal that real estate is going to make me a millionaire and I can work from any beach anywhere and look how much money I can make. And it's like, no, you got to earn that.
Right.
It doesn't come from year one.
No doubt. Awesome. Well, Jon, thanks for sharing your story with us today and some lessons on, building a more profitable business, doing less deals, quite frankly, just going deeper instead of wider.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate you
Hey,
for
if folks
having me.
want to connect with you, like where can they go to learn more?
The best way is Instagram, just Jon Barbera on Instagram. And I have a YouTube channel where everything I do, I put out trainings for. So if you want to learn all the techniques I teach, they're all there for free.
Cool.
And it's Coach Jon Barbera on YouTube. And yeah, pretty much you reach out, DM me, and I'll connect with anybody.
We'll add some links down below. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Guys, hope you enjoyed today's show. At the end of the day, there's a lot of ways to do deals. You just want to make sure you're building a profitable business on a solid foundation. So hope you got some good value from today. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.